Is this thing functional? Are we live? Does the microphone sound like I'm in a porta-can? Who knows? Hopefully everything works out great. What's happening, everybody? Hope you're having a fantastic, whatever day you're watching this. So recently I had gone and test driven one of the Hurricane Inline 6 standard output powered F-150 Ram 1500. It was a crew cab, 355 gear, the whole bit, right? And great truck, rode nice, all of that, but the power of it was just nowhere near what I expected. I had I'll put it to you like this. My initial thought was that it didn't have the right fuel in it. In fact, come to find out, I was right. The performance of that truck kind of sucked. And the reason why it sucked is because it had 87 octane in it. I did validate that with the dealership. I had to go back and pick up Buffy. Buffy had to have a new radiator put in her. And, well, got an opportunity to chat with some folks about that truck. And so, yes, 87 octane was in fact in that truck. And so I started looking at the owner's manual, and the owner's manual for that truck reads specifically that for optimum performance, you're going to have to run premium fuel. So it got me to thinking a little bit, okay, well, to get advertised numbers out of that engine, you're going to have to run that better fuel. But if you remember, the Hemi is the exact same way. The only way that you're going to get that full 390 horsepower and 410 foot-pounds of torque out of that engine is to run 89 octane. You won't get there with 87 either with the 5.7. So I dove into Ford a little bit, and this is where things get interesting. See, I didn't just stop at Ford. I went to Chevy, but I'll cut to the chase. Ford says the same thing. Boys, if you want optimum performance out of your Ford engines, you need to run 91 or better octane. Chevrolet says nothing about that whatsoever. They're just like, put 87 in me and I'll be happy. Well, if you want to believe the owner's manual anyway. But getting back to the Ford versus Dodge thing. Okay. So my argument with the Dodge situation was that you needed to run premium to get the horsepower number that the engine is rated at out of that engine. The 5.0 from my testing is rated on 87 octane. Any gains that you get are above and beyond what it's rated at with 91 or 93 octane, talking about premium. You might say, well, how do I quantify that? Well, you guys have to remember, I had a 2022 Ram 1500 with the Hemi. 355 gears went in it. I had tuned it on 93 octane. And interestingly enough, vehicle for vehicle, with weight being all but identical. Vehicle for vehicle, weight being identical, launch being identical, and 60 foot being identical, the Ford would run away from the Hemi. The Coyote would run away from the Hemi resoundingly. By how much? At the end of the quarter mile, a minimum of 3 miles per hour were to be expected. And in this game, 3 miles per hour is roughly at least 30 horsepower at the back half of the track. So, I'm sorry. The Ram would out 60 foot the Ford by just a little bit usually. Well, it's a bigger engine and it's making really good tip-in torque. I have no complaints about that engine. So when you look at it from that perspective, engine for engine, quarter mile for quarter mile run, hell, even stock for stock, if you want to go down that route, you have to run premium fuel in the Dodge, whichever one it is, to get the rated number out of it. If you run better than 87 octane in any of the Ford variants, not including the base 3.3 liter naturally aspirated V6, whatever that is, In everything that's either boosted or Coyote, you get performance above and beyond the rated figures. But here's kind of the other funny thing about that. I got to diving into the owner's manual, and there's no mention of a power difference between the fuels. So that is to say, what would be the power of the engine rated SAE on the manufacturer's dyno J1379? What's the dyno number on 87 octane? I don't care what it does to the rear wheels or anything like that. It completely doesn't interest me. What I'm talking about is from the manufacturer. That sounds healthy. From the manufacturer, what would that number have been? So in the case of the Hemi, instead of 390 and 410, is it 370 and 390? I mean, would that kind of falls in lockstep with, I believe my 09, way back in the day, I think my 09 F-150 picked up 10 horsepower and 15 foot-pounds of torque, or vice versa, something like that on the 85, but it listed different power figures. The Coyote doesn't list different power figures either. Well, nor do any of the engines for 87 octane or premium or E85. Any of the fuels, you're not listed as being different, which is kind of weird to me in a way. But it is what it is. I can tell you with my personal experience, Buffy, the fleet truck, which is a 2017 Ram 1500 Tradesman quad cab, 321 geared Hemi, that truck, it's not a fan of 87. And when I've data logged it, even on premium, it's still got a little bit of knock retard to it. That truck, though, loves, and it runs great on 89 octane. Would probably like premium a little bit better, but the reality is that it's always run 89 octane since I've had it. And I've had that truck since it was practically brand new. So the Hemi is already, it lives that life. But it's curious that you don't get two different power figures out of it. And I find that to be a little bit, how do I say it? It's almost like it's unbecoming in a way. Like, we need to have that kind of data because it makes the Coyote look like it is way underrated by comparison. Sorry, I'm bagging up. I've got a shifter stay that I'm going to be putting on the Z1, so that's what I'm over here fiddling with. But it makes the Ford products look underrated, and it makes the Dodge products, well, I guess technically speaking, if it doesn't make peak power unless it's on 91 octane, it is overrated, which could have some folks a little bit perturbed. Wouldn't be the first time we've seen this out of Dodge. Matter of fact, it's kind of their MO, but in this case, it would be kind of nice if we had a little bit to work with here. But anyway, let me check in with you guys. Brent is first in. Hello. Skids. Got the bald guy with the flex and the shades. I like it. Hard Rock is in. What's up, man? Sam is in, looking at buying a Nissan Frontier. Now, might just be who's talking. Well, try one out, see if you like it. Let's see. John's saying OHC has pretty good top end. It has really good top end. I'll tell you what, it marches on the big end. Even with the real mild tune that I ended up settling with. By the way, fuel quality. Let's talk about that. John reminded me of something. So I did go in and play with some timing figures with the F-150. It does not like, it doesn't really seem to matter if I throw timing at it. So I settled on like half a degree of timing across the board on the baseline tables, of which there are 16. And that's just to cover any variance in a sensor. A lot of time when I'm putting a street tune together for a stock combination, I don't make big changes to a lot of the stock tables. In other, like timing. I don't make a lot of big changes to timing. I don't mess with fueling too much. I'll adjust when it comes in lockstep with like driver demand on the electronic throttle table. I don't make a lot of changes there because they're actually really good, usually from the factory. There aren't that many that are totally screwed up. But what I will do is I will hedge the table to the aggressive side of what the variance would be for a sensor. So let's say a sensor is good plus or minus half a degree, or so you got a 1 degree variance. I'll adjust timing half a degree aggressive. Or let's say knock sensors, let's say they're accurate to within 1/10 of a volt. For the Ford, I'll bump everything up 1/10 of a volt, and it'll just give it a little bit of headway. A lot of guys say, that doesn't mean it doesn't do anything. World record, world record, world record, world record, set, reset, set, reset, set, reset. So scoreboard, I guess my stuff does work, but I just let y'all in on a real clever little secret that I've got. And so there you go. One of the things that you've got to remember when you're talking about fuel quality, it affects everything. Modern vehicles are right on that razor's edge of what will really pass for making peak power with whatever fuel you're running them on. They're all basically race engines, and they're being electronically controlled to play nice with modern gas. I've got a crappy tank of gas in the F-150, which is where I'm going with this. And I know that because my partial throttle knock retard is legitly placed with 93 octane with no real spark modifiers to talk about. And at wide open throttle, though, it seems to be pretty happy, but that's usually not where you get knock. You typically get knock at mid to low speed, high load areas. So that's what I'm up against. Let's see. But by the way, that truck just did clip a 1379 and a 1380 on the Draggy. And that's in some funky ass conditions. That truck rolls. It's a crew cab 4-wheel drive truck with 331 gears. It has no right to be as quick as it is. Sam said, I think the new midsize trucks are equivalent to half tons in the early 90s. You're exactly right about that. Late 80s too. Any Hemi doesn't like lower than 91. John saying my buddy's 300C gets pissed at low octane fuel. They all do. Yeah. Hemis do not. Hemis like to run rich, and they do not like poor fuel quality. And they've got real sensitive knock sensors when so equipped. Sean saying, what's up, Mason? What's your opinion on a rear-mounted Hemi with the 576462? Are you talking about rear-mounted turbos, maybe? Help me understand the question a little bit better, and I'll be happy to answer it. If you're talking about turbos, like you're doing a rear mount turbo, they work fine. I mean, they're a little laggy, but they're not near as bad as what people will tell you. If you can get away with it, and you've got to act. The only thing I don't like about rear, if we're talking about turbos, the thing I don't like about rear mount is you've got to have scavenger pumps. Lots of rear, you'll see a lot of rear mount turbos smoking, and it's because of poor oiling. Hard Rock saying this guy doesn't like chug, it likes filet mignon. Yeah, well, it's from the factory. You've got to run 93 in those cars. Sam saying personal experience is 88. Oh, rat gas. Yeah, it's better than 87. It all depends on what the engine is optimized for. Brent's running 87 in his Hemis. I know a lot of the guys with the fleet trucks run 87 in their trucks. I've run 87 in mine, and I've data logged it, and there is a ton of short-term knock retard. It'll cruising down the highway. My 2014 would be sitting at -3, and it wouldn't do that with premium. And again, they're designed to run on 87 octane. They just don't make premium power on any fuel that's not at least 89 octane. Oh, John saying, meanwhile, most Ford products we have don't have issues with 87 pump gas, 300C premium, or have fun with it, getting good power economy. Yeah, that's one of the things about the Ford that I noticed straight away is it does matter what fuel you put in it, but it didn't run bad on 87 octane. It just didn't run as good as it does on the good stuff. Sovereign saying, hey folks, Sovereign saying just hit 50. Dude, congratulations. That's a good thing. Hard Rock saying happy Saturday, Sovereign. Yeah, I've got a birthday coming up too. I'll be 50 soon. I'm elated. So saying happy birthday. Yep, happy birthday, Sovereign. This kid's about to be 49. Yep. Oh, John saying Sonic RS Turbo gets really pissed at bad fuel. Yeah, anything with a rear-mounted engine. Sean's is saying rear-mounted engine. I have no idea. What would you mount it in? So I'm saying, thanks, B. Thank you. But yeah, fuel quality is a real thing, guys. And it's one of those things that, we take for granted all of the electronic aids that these cars have. And a lot of times people complain about, just different systems that you have. But one of the things that works really well in these modern cars are the provisions to work well with all types of fuel. You got to remember, modern vehicles, not even talking about the boosted stuff, modern vehicles have very high compression ratios, some pretty trick componentry going on with them to make them as powerful and as efficient as possible, given the fuel quality that we have. But one of the things that I had often wondered is, why is it that we're still stuck with 87 octane in general? It's like the penny. Like, these engines really can't use 87 octane. Well, they need much more better fueling, or better fuels and better fueling, but 87 octane is just not going to get it done. One of the things that I think it was Mazda, one of the engines they were putting together was one of the Sky Active systems, something along those lines. Anyway, what the hell was that thing called? About 13-to-1 compression, turbocharged, 1.3 liter. And it made like 150, 180 horsepower. It doesn't really matter. But the idea was that it was a very small engine. And I think it was they that were campaigning for, we don't need 87 octane anymore. None of these engines, they run fine on 87, but the components that they have could be made to be much more efficient if we just ran with 93, 95, and 96 octane fuels. And that would take care of a lot of issues for these small, very high power dense engines, where even in some cases, 93 octane can be a bit of a limiting factor. So, really efficiency, fuel economy, power output, all of that is tied to compression ratio and boost, if there is any. The better your head flow, the higher your compression ratio. You've already got variable cam timing, dual overhead camshafts, meaning you've got a practically infinitely variable camshaft profile. All that's in play. And it will all do a very good job of making power, being efficient, great fuel economy numbers and all of that. All you need is to be able to put the right gas in it. And the fun thing about this proposition is you're not going backwards if you an older vehicle that can't use 87 octane, or that can not benefit from, say, a 9 or 93. You just have a better fuel in it all the time. And it brings the cost down of refining the higher cost fuels down to, how much it's gas, right? So what could possibly be the difference? It's one of the key reasons why I'm kind of a big proponent of always running the best fuel that you can in the vehicle that you've got. minimum of 89 octane. And the main reason why I say that is 89 is typically a blend of 93 and 87, but don't all top tier fuel. Don't get it from sketchy establishments because that fuel is probably not going to be the best. And it's real important that if you are paying attention to what kind of fuel you're putting in your vehicle, log the differences in fuel economy. That's one way. It depends on how you drive the vehicle. If you're into the pedal a lot, you're going to want to have the better fuel. If you're not necessarily racing the car, you're not really heavy on the throttle, which, I don't know how people drive a vehicle and don't be heavy on the throttle, but some people are out there like that. So be it. 87 octane might just be what you need. 87 octane is such a, it's funny that we're being forced and mandated to have all of these, it must be more efficient. The engine has to do this. It's got to do that, like lower NOx and higher this. But we're still stuck with gasoline that is really best suited for engines that are so much older than what we have now, with much lower compression rate. Look, the engines that 87 octane would do well to serve are so they're so obsolete at this stage of the game. It's like an old, mid 80s 350 that you'd see in a Caprice or something. Low compression, tiny camshafts. There's no retarded timing from the factory, all of that. None of that. Never benefit from a higher octane fuel. But modern engines practically it's mandatory to put better fuel in those engines. So anyway, enough of that. Let's see. Bear with me here. Oh, excuse me. In a boat, a De Tomaso Pantera Fiero. Talking about the rear mount. If we are talking about a marine application, do they even make jacketed manifolds for that engine family? I wouldn't know. I do not know. I will say this though, watch out for LS engines in marine applications. For anything with aluminum heads in marine applications, you've got to flush them, or else you'll get the corrosion is really bad if you're running brackish or salt water. Let's see. I'm saying I ran a 15.1 and a 17 Ram on 87 full weight and terrain tires. Very cool. John saying, I'm surprised that for a compact car, low 7, 0 to 60 and glued to the road. It's not fast, but it's fun. That's all that matters. That is all that matters. This kid's saying the 87 is for our daily, like our Ford Escape. Escape can use 87. All right, my 392 is noticeable with 87 in my tank. Seems like when I accelerated, it didn't have the same punch. It won't. It's not designed to run on that fuel, bro. Yeah, it's because your computer NOx sensors were having their mind blown. Yeah, don't ever put 87 in a 392. They're definitely not designed for it. I bet it would have some pretty significant differences in performance. Itches in. Good day, sir. '87 is made for normal people, cars and trucks are of modern era. Yeah, old muscle cars. Yeah, it's a completely different story. I mean, you got significant differences: cylinder head design, camshaft profile, compression ratio, all of that for sure. In fact, you probably would want to run a lead additive if it doesn't have the hardened valve seats installed. Skid saying, I had to get some seat time on the Bob today. Hotter days are on the way. Yep, 94 today. Wasn't had to keep moving. What'd you think of that Harley Davidson Pan America Roadster conversion? It looks pretty badass. I don't know why Harley Davidson. God, man, I've got such beef with Harley Davidson, man. They don't. It's really not Harley Davidson, I guess, but they would. Okay. What's the Bronx? Whatever happened to that? That would have been a surefire hit. And I don't understand why. Well, and it would have been a surefire hit with the larger displacement engine too. Not that whatever it was, the 900 or whatever. Put that new 1200 120 horse motor in that thing and go pick on some Thruxtons and some Speed Twins with that bike. I mean, I don't understand for the life of me why Harley Davidson does not embrace their racing heritage when it comes to street bikes. What you got to remember, guys, is back in the day, if you're into bikes, it was Harley Davidson versus Triumph. That's it. You're either a Harley guy or a Triumph guy. You're either a Sportster guy or you're a Bonneville guy. You're either a Sportster guy or a Trophy guy. One of two. It didn't matter. These guys raced and they were competitive with each other, and it was really cool. And somewhere along the way, man, Harley lost. They lost that. They lost that racing, unless it was flat track, maybe drag racing. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. And again, my experience with Harley guy isn't all that great. So, that did nothing but kind of add a little bit of color to my opinion. Although I do love Harley Davidson motorcycles. I love the machines, but they need to embrace their old school street racing past. This is back in the freaking late 40s, well into the 50s. These guys, we had cafe runs here in any major city, you had guys racing motorcycles. So, and the cafe'd out Sportsters were badass bikes. They're good looking bikes. So again, I don't know what the deal is with that. It drives me nuts though. Oh, by the way, Skids, I was able to throw a leg over the Speed Triple Double R. Not for a very long time, but I was able to get the bike out and wring its neck a little bit. I would prefer the RS over the Double R. The Double R is a little bit too committed in terms of seating position, but what I didn't like, it's got that fully adjustable suspension, where the RS is just Owen's rears and Sachs front, I think, or it might have Owen's front too. But no, it does have Owen's front. Anyway, a little bit less committed, but that 1200 makes a lot of power, but it's almost like that, like from your perspective, the power curve compared to a leader class bike is kind of tilted. And it's like it tilts at like 7,000 RPM. You want a little bit more top end power out of it, but the mid range and the drive is just nutty. But we always want more, right? Like, how can you complain about a double R? It's just that it needs a reflash. And if that thing were just to only have a reflash, it would probably pick up about 15 horsepower with the way that the electronic throttle valve, that basically the electronic throttle is mapped. I hate to say it, I didn't like the Double R enough to buy it. If I were to ride an RS, I probably would like that bike more. Goofball saying, shouting out from Lubbock. Spent some time up in Lubbock. Texas Tech Red Raiders, baby. Let's see. But thank you, Goofball. Appreciate you hanging out. Hard Rock saying knucklehead days. Yeah. Cool bikes, man. Oh, talking about the Bronx. I'm with you as a concept. And they have, the new CEO guy comes in and shelved it. Yes, I didn't know Stellantis took over Harley Davidson. I was very disappointed. I'll put it to you like this: not for nothing. I probably would say that. Golly, so know. I'm so bummed out with the direction that Harley's going. I would have probably bought a Bronx, to be honest, and that would have been my. But of course, it's not a real Harley, though, right? Anyway, people was asking, what do you think of the crate motors from Chevy? Oh, they're great. They're awesome. They're probably some of the most durable engines, and it depends. I mean, they're all good, anywhere from the Target Master 350 all the way up through any of the LS LT variants. I mean, they're all good. Can't go wrong with them. Skid saying he's liking the RS. Dude, the RS tail tidy Puig front screen, and a reflash. I maybe put a slip on it, but the way the thing sounds and the intake noise is just amazing. Brent's saying, did you see that sales are down 14% with Dodge? I knew that they were down, but I didn't know what the number was. 14 surprised me that it's a number that low. I'm surprised it's that low. I'm surprised that it's not more like 20 or 22%. Skid saying Stellantis didn't take over Harley Davidson, but it sounds familiar with how Stellantis shelved the overhead valve. Yeah. Well, what was it like in 2017? We were told they were developing, it was either a 5.2 or a 5.5 liter dual overhead cam V8 to take the place of the Hemi. And we never got that. Meanwhile, Coyote just seems to keep getting better and better. This fourth generation variant, man. Holy moly, dude. I mean, guys, look, credit where it's due. That, like I was saying in an earlier part of this chat, you're looking at an engine that it is predictably 3 miles an hour faster than the Ram every single time they would run. And that's not an insignificant number. 3 miles an hour is a fast-paced walk away from another vehicle. That is an embarrassing amount to lose by. And by the way, that's a well sorted out Ram 1500 versus my F-150, which even when it was bone to bone to bone stock with nothing done in the tune whatsoever, that truck was still significant. That truck was still 0.3 of a second quicker than the tuned Hemi. It's actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's more like, hold up. Shit, it might be more like 0.4, depending on how you do your math. So, but again, that's what we could have had from Dodge. And okay, I understand there's a weight penalty there if you're comparing the exact same truck to the exact same truck. I get that. But, and it's a big one, we could have had the V8 and we didn't. And that's the thing I think that gets underneath the skin the most. And look no further than Ford for how do you do it? I don't, it's like, okay, you're in the engineering, guys, we got to come up with a V8. Really? What are we going to do? A V8, we got the Hemi. I mean, well, I want the Hemi. What else are we going to do? Okay, well, it's not that efficient, and it's really good for what it is, but we got to have something better. What works? Okay, well, we're part of Mercedes-Benz. I mean, that that 6.2 liter that was in the W211 was really good. Yeah, okay, we've got a little bit of a background on that. Can't be quite that big. Well, what about the 5.0? What about the Coyote? Well, there is always that. Let's take a look at that and see if we can't make it our own a little bit. It's that you don't even have to pay an engineer. You just go scalp one of the things and have somebody reverse engineer half of what's making that thing tick. I mean, damn, it would not have been that hard. And to Mopar-ize the Coyote would just mean to make it bigger. I know that we were looking at 5.2 and 5.5 is the displacement that seemed to have kind of gripped, or at least that's the rumor that stuck the hardest. And that's why we had OG Demon. I mean, that was the car that was going out. This new platform was supposed to be coming in. And, well, now we don't have that. So it is what it is. But I can tell you this. Brent, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Was at the track, new Hellcat stock wide body, 12.3 at 121. He was getting eat up by 392 Challengers all night. So back in the day, for those of you guys that may be kind of new to the channel, I got my start, well, a long time ago. That little guy right there, that was my 99 ACR Viper. And but I had two Vipers previous to that. I grew up in a Mopar household. And so I've got some background with this. I can tell you that well, I'll put it to you like this. I've been around the Mopar thing for what seems like forever. And one of the things that bothered me the most, I don't know if it was with the way that Dodge has been going lately. We were supposed to get the V8 and we didn't. And that still is bothering me the most about all of this. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm thinking about something else. I got started with Mopar, and I've been messing around with the tuning of this stuff for a long time. When I got my SRT, it's a 2016 SRT, we started playing with the tune with it. I would go sniping after Hellcats on the street, trying to bait them into a drag race. Then the very first, this is the first, what was it? The very first Mopar event at Hennessy's track in Sealy. The very first kill that car ever had was a Hellcat. So yeah, it's not uncommon to see guys that don't really know what they're doing with those cars. What scares me about the 12.3 at 121 is he was either, I mean, and rightfully so, leaving full on traction control in like full bloom, or he was spinning. One of the things that affect Hellcat owners the most is they'll get into the throttle and they'll start to haze the tires. They'll get out and then they'll try to hit the throttle again a little bit harder, and things can go haywire pretty quickly in that scenario. Let's see. But yeah, it's not uncommon for Hellcat owners to get humbled by a bunch of guys in scatties. I don't know why I got off on the 5.5 thing. I just started doing that, and then I started squirrel. Welcome to ADHD. All right, saying Stellantis is only second to Toyota in capital. Well, lovely. Hey, at least Toyota gave us the Supra. Stepdaddy Stellantis said no way to a new V8. By the way, happy Father's Day to all you dads tomorrow. What Raiders? Where is Raiders in here? Is there a Raiders thing? Don't have anything on Raiders. Used to love going to Raiders games though when I lived in San Francisco. Um, and again, thank you, Brent. I appreciate it. Um, no, I don't. I didn't know what what is there something that looks like Raiders? Oh, it might be the Triumph bag back there. Raider Nation. So what's funny is that I used to joke about the Raiders because they would only win about 1 or 2 games a year, and my whole thing was, Raiders fans, you only need to win one. That's it. Um, yeah, Raiders games are fun to go to. People get into a bunch of people dressed up like Darth Vader, and uh, you know, it's like a bunch of goth people in shoulder pads. It's fun. Let's see. I don't really have. And speaking of football, I'm really not. I don't keep up with anything with football anymore. I played in college, but I never. I knew I. So I went to school with quite a few guys that ended up playing, either playing pro or on a scout squad that ended up going into coaching. A lot of the guys that I knew went to Detroit. So, University of Houston at the time was kind of a feeder school, it seems like, for the Detroit Lions. Oh, Cyber saying, speaking of Vipers, what did you think of that 677 at 214? Yeah, that's pretty fast. There's, to say the least, there were, for a hot minute, Vipers were the hot ticket. But things have come a long way since back in the day. Oh, Scavenger 1320. Oh, yeah, he beats Hellcats all the time with that 1320. Oh, well, they are the they are the 170s. And by the way, I wouldn't say that he got his butt handed to him. I would say that the Demon 170s were lucky to line up next to him, because none of those guys are going to get an advertised number out of their cars. And as it sits, Scavenger, I think, has beaten the official number on that car by, I think, a full second. So, yeah, I would say that if there's a Demon 170 and Scavenger's on the same track, Scavenger's classing up the lanes. Skid saying, Vipers look sick. Yeah, they sound weird. They sound real weird. Not a big V10 fan, but when they are amazing automobiles. Yeah, they sound interesting. It's a weird split firing order. It's a 6-cylinder and a 4-cylinder firing order. It's kind of a weird one. Odrock saying, Patriots guy here missed Tom Brady. Oh, Pats. I had a buddy of mine that was a diehard Pats fan. Odrock saying Raiders have sucked longer than the economy. It goes back a few years. Although Lyle Alzado was my guy when I was a kid. Sorry, saying number 12, Tom Brady was the GOAT. Yep. Oh, Jedi, you've mentioned them before. Oh, yeah. While you were living in San Francisco, you did a lot of work on older cars down there for people. Yep. They would bring them to me to get them ready for inspections. So yeah. Yeah, Raider, like I say, I mean, it was fun going to the game. I would never say that I was a fan, but yeah, Raider Nation. Like I say, I probably would have had more fun if I were more of a fan. I was more of a Giants fan, though. I used to like riding the train into the getting off at King Street, going to grab drinks at some of the bars right there by the stadium, and then wander over and grab some garlic fries, watch the game. And we used to do that a lot. We'd all meet up at one of the train stations and ride the train down. That was a lot of fun. The trip back was always nutty. That was always a lot of fun. But yeah, no, I do love me some well, I wouldn't say I loved, but I did love me some going to the games. I'm more of a fan of just being there than anything else. I just like going to Rockets games too, like basketball games. Oh, Skids hanging out with Hard Rock. Yep, Brady was an awesome quarterback. Oh, um, oh, Brent's saying there was a 170 there. It didn't run, but I'm sure it was not going to hit an 890. No, none of them have. None of them have. None of them have an as delivered in any close resemblance to an as delivered configuration. As a matter of fact, I'll put it to you like this. The guys that have covered an 8-second quarter mile in those cars did it in lottery air, and they're doing a lot of weight reduction in those cars to get there. I don't have a problem with that. Certainly not the air and not even the weight reduction. Do what you, that's why I was talking about Scavenger. That's why I was pissed that Scabby didn't get a 170. There was a short list of people that I wanted to see get 170s. It was me, but aside from me, it was Scavenger. It was Racer X was number 2 on that list. Speedy, who finally got one. So I guess, the folks that I was hoping would get one, but Scavenger didn't get one. I thought, man, if anybody would show up to the party with a race prep 170 with nothing else done to it on stock tires, it would have been him. And he would have been out there covering probably 880s with that car by the time it was all said and done. And not doing it with dumb little, like, well, we're removing he'd have done it the way he did with his 1320, and it would have worked out great. I try to see MLB games at every city I visit. Was in Toronto last week and saw the Blue Jays at the Rogers Center playing the Orioles. That would have been a fun game. What happened with the Giants? Oh, never mind. Can only flipping imagine. I forgot that it's June. Hard Rock saying they should have put a disclaimer on the 170 to say the DA track prep and driver skills. Oh, and then also how you set the car up too, because that makes all the difference in the world. I mean, you can set it up with some pretty interesting torque management. By the way, San Francisco wasn't like that when I lived there. I mean, it was, but not like that. Yeah, June happened. Ta-da! Oh, God. The shit they do. And I know quite a few folks in the community, and even they are eye roll when it comes to a lot of that stuff. Although Castro District had some pretty badass coffee shops, I got to admit. And little like pastry joints that were up there. Brent saying most guys with Chargers and Challengers take out all the weight they can to hit the numbers. They say you can full weight stock. Yeah, look, I'll put it to you like this. When I was out chasing numbers with the Hellcat, one of the cars that I tuned was Orange Crush. Orange Crush went 1016 full. Actually, I'm saying full weight. The car was legit full weight. And it weighed about 135 pounds more than my car did. And on the night that I broke the record for what ended up being the last time, when I went 1050, my whole goal of that night was to get his car to run a 1016. If it covered a 1.6, it would mean that he would cover the record set by Tim Mopar or Jim Mopar, and that would have been not the outright record, but it would have been in like very full, very like it's very full weight, right, with nothing removed. Things still have the damn floor mats in it. So in the same run, he went 16, I went 05 with a 7 or 05 with an 8. Either way, that was a really cool night. And, you can't put into words how cool nights are that are like that. But at those power levels, that kind of weight variance just doesn't make that much of a difference. Not the difference that you think it might make anyway. But yeah, most guys, Brent, dude, they're taking, if they're shooting for numbers, they're doing everything they possibly can to try to be competitive. And here's the thing, man. Okay, so we're talking about like any of these events where you have a heavyweight class. Guys, heavyweight class? Seriously? It is, right? That's the Dodge class. It's what it is. Yeah, there's heavier cars. I get it. CTSV wagons or whatever. Look. Oh, this is going to be painful to say. Ballast a Mustang that's been built to run in heavyweight class, and it will beat most of the cars in heavyweight. Do you understand where I'm going with this? I'm trying to be as polite as I possibly can here. But it really is like part of a development league. Not development league. I mean, you're dealing with cars that are plenty fast, 7-second cars. But comparatively speaking, when you're talking about a 7-second car and you've got like a 780 versus a 758, 752. At those speeds, you have to remember how much real estate you can take up in a third of a second. It looks like a football field between the two vehicles at the end of that run. The faster you go, the more distance there is at a second. At like a 13-second pace, it's not that very much, but it is noticeable, especially if you've got something that's walking away, like the Coyote versus, the Hemi. But if we're talking about something like, if we're talking about something like a car that's already going 160 miles an hour, and it's a full third of a second ahead of another car, I mean, it's bus lengths. It's not even near it. So, it is what it is. Hardware saying the drag pack's a 7-second car, but not a grocery getter. Well, and so that's another thing that has had me, how do I say it? That's something that, so what is a street car? This is something that gets thrown around a ton. Well, does it have air conditioning? Does it have a VIN plate? Does it have this? I can drive it wherever I want. There's a lot of guys that say, well, my car is a street car. Where you at? Just mind you that if you're on a racetrack, then that means your car is now a race car. And you only are limited by your imagination as to how much race prep that you do. Guys like, Scavenger 1320, they race prep their cars. There's no rule that says you don't need to race prep your car or can't race prep your car, or there's a limitation to your race prep. No, you race prep them, which is to say you take as much weight out of the things you possibly can. It's a race car at this point, and so the goal is to win the race or to cover the number or both. And in some instances, that can be taken as offensive by some people somehow. But the goal is, if you're on a racetrack, is to win the race. A street car is on the street. And you say, well, I took my street car and this is an as delivered form. Okay, that would be one of the rules that you would want to set for the race that you're putting together. Your car has to be in as delivered form, or it needs to agree with a certain configuration. Okay, no sweat. But the reality is that if your car's on a racetrack, it's a race car. Win, lose, or draw, and you can say, oh, you got your car gutted or whatever. That doesn't matter. That's immaterial. But it drives me nuts. People say, well, it's not a street car, or it's not a race car. And it's like, yeah, it kind of is. So I don't know. Oh, Jebediah said, I just had the pre-stage and stage 1 done on my Hellcat. The service advisor mentioned that Direct Connection was going to stop offering the kits. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I tell you what, it's a good kit. I think that's the 3.0 pulley kit. It's on a regular Hellcat, safe, 93 octane. You'll never have a problem with it, and it's going to run good. It's quick. I think the reason why, though, a lot of folks shy away from the stage kits is that they still have to have some fairly aggressive component protection built into them. And so it may put down a good number, but just know that when you're running the car, when it goes into cat overtemp protection mode, for example, it will absolutely go pig rich. It'll be 9.7 to 1 AFR. And I mean, it's legit just fogging it with fuel. But Hellcats are good. By the way, keep an eye on make sure that you are, make sure you've got data logging capability and that you're data logging your fuel pressure, please. I have saved, at this stage of the game, it's over half a dozen guys just by reminding them to check their fuel pressure, because Hellcats have a nasty habit. The fuel pumps have a nasty habit of just slowly kind of going away. And next thing you know, instead of getting your commanded 80 PSI, you're only getting 72 PSI or 70 PSI or 68 PSI. So just keep an eye on that. Know that is a potential thing that you may need to swap. I bought a tool for it. It takes 0 time to knock it out. Just make sure that you get all the gas out of that tank before you start pulling anything apart. Hard Rock saying, as long as you can pass tech, you're good. That's right. Fall within the rules, you're good. If not, then if you're there to have fun, show up with what you got and just run it. If you're looking to win the race, though, there's guys that go nuts on race prep. Like, everything is out of the car. If it is not integral to the structure of that vehicle, it is not on that vehicle. Oh, goodness. But guys, with that, we are coming up on 1 hour. I want to thank all of y'all for hanging out with me tonight. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Hey, guys, again, happy Father's Day. Sovereign, happy birthday. And also, guys, look, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Y'all have a great one.